What is up, guys? Welcome to my channel, AJ's Corner. This is a breaking news video. We got some crazy news. UFC 314, I woke up and it's been announced. Crazy card. We'll get to the card in another video. But the three fights I want to talk about here, starting at the co-main, we've got Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. And then we've got Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett in the co-main. And the main event, we've got the returning Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes, which is a sick fight. I want to quickly talk about all three of these fights. First, Yair versus Pitbull. Yair's had 5 fights in 5 years. I just got a little notes written here. He made Holloway have to wrestle. He looked amazing in that fight. Then the Ortega fight had the injury, and then he fought Emmett, which he looked just elite. He made Emmett just look like a punk. I mean, Emmett isn't the most skilled, but he's just so dangerous. You just can't count that guy out. He can just put your lights out at any minute. Then Volk coming back off his loss to Makachev. The knockout loss just reminded us who the hell he was, and I thought he was just going to go on another hell of a run at featherweight because he looked so good in that fight. The striking to wrestling was just seamless in that fight. It was a thing of beauty. That fight might be my favorite performance from Volk because he doesn't get a lot of finishes, and man, Yair was in a good space there, and man, he just beat the brakes off him. It was a unification for the interim, I guess, as well. And then we have the Ortega fight, which kind of reminded me of the Yair didn't look great in that fight, but I mean Volk looked amazing. And then the Ortega fight where he looked like he was just going to get away with it and just take away. He looked like he was going to run away with the fight in round 1, and then Ortega seemed to put him on the ground, and he was just stuck like Velcro. It reminded me of the Frankie Edgar fight, where as soon as he went down, it was like almost as if he had no. Almost as if when you put him down, he just can't fight anymore. It was strange. I know Yair can do triangles and stuff like that, but man, I mean, obviously Ortega's a high level grappler. Probably felt like a building on top of him compared to other guys like that. But man, it was a crazy fight. And yeah, he got his ass whipped. Fight coming up against Pitbull, who's been up and down as of late, but is still technically the current Bellator champion, or coming in as the final Bellator featherweight champion. Just to list some names here that you may not know that Patricio has fought and beat that are really good fighters. Pat Curran, Daniel Strauss, both former Bellator champions. Daniel Weichel, unfortunately never a Bellator champion, came that close to knocking Pitbull out. I mean, he had him absolutely gone, and then Pitbull just put him to sleep. But so he beat Daniel Weichel, this great German fighter, twice. He's beat Chandler, he's beat Juan Archuleta, he's beat AJ McKee. Yeah, man, he's got some good wins, and he's coming in as Bellator champ. But other than his recent win against Jamie Kennedy, he did have the loss, the unanimous decision loss where he got dominated by Sergio Pettis, which might have been a bad idea going down to bantamweight because even though he's 5'6", he is an absolute fire hydrant, a tank of a human being. And obviously I just had a look at it now. I just rewatched it. The fight against Chihiro, I think you say it, Chihiro Suzuki, who was a 24-year-old, so he's like 12 years, 13 years younger than him. And it was up at 154 in Ryzen, who just hit him with a straight right, and he was out on his feet and then followed up with another and just put him out. I mean, he was moving. He wasn't like, Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he was pretty much done. He was cooked. Put a fork in him. Next up, on the co-main, we've got Chandler versus Pimblett. I went back and watched a couple of Chandler's fights. Michael Chandler might be the best 2-on-4 fighter in UFC history. And I know the Hooker fight didn't seem that good at the time, but that Hooker win has aged brilliantly now, isn't it? And the Tony win, I mean, what can you take from it other than Tony was not getting finished by Oliveira, Dariush, Pimblett? He wasn't getting finished by any of these guys. And Chandler, I mean, I think it was a bit of a fluke to be honest, but he put him out cold. He made him in the grandpa face meme, which I'll never forgive Chandler for that. I'll never forgive him. He's an asshole. I mean, as a massive Tony fan, I don't even want to talk about it. It's been hard. It's been hard to watch. I mean, really liking fighters is cool, but when you get to the mountaintop, there's only one way down on the other side, and watching that slope, I mean, man, he's just a BJ level proportions of losses. Anyway, so I went back and looked at some of his fights. I mean, Oliveira, that fight against Oliveira could have been stopped, and you could be looking at a former or current UFC champion. I mean, I doubt he'd be a current, but he'd be a former UFC champion. Just think about that. If that fight had been stopped, not a person on the planet would have complained. So in my mind, Michael Chandler is almost as good as a UFC champion. In a way, because if you can get to a point where you're that close, and then look at where Charlie Olives went after that. I mean, that is a great fight. I mean, all of his fights, he's had moments in him, and I mean, so we got the Oliveira fight. He could have won that, could have stopped it. The Gaethje fight, one of the best fights ever. Yeah, he lost fair and square, but man, that was a great fight, back and forth, and that was a prime version of Gaethje. The Gaethje that was no more gonna just stand and bang with you like the guy that lost to Alvarez. He was the guy that was. I always knew he'd win the rematch with Poirier, because I thought if this guy doesn't just fight like an asshole, he will beat Poirier, and he did, and I knew he would. I should have bet the house on that. The Poirier fight, he almost won it in the first. I mean, he pretty much dominated that fight. I mean, yeah, he got hurt a couple of times and hurt at the end of the first, but other than those little moments, he was dominating that fight, and until he got choked out. And then the Oliveira fight was not close, but he did not quit, and he put a good count of himself in the 5th round. I mean, all of these fights, I mean, it's just, I mean, I think Chandler's problem is his chin. I think he's lived on his chin in Bellator days against Alvarez and guys like that, the Eddie Alvarez. If you haven't seen the 2 Eddie Alvarez fights, you need to go back and watch those fights. They're absolutely amazing. Some of the best fights you will ever see outside of the UFC. Just classic fights, both of them, amazing fights. That was when I was first hadn't been into MMA for too many years, and my mate was like, "Yeah, you've got to watch this Eddie Alvarez guy. He gets hurt in every fight and just wins." And the commentator, Jimmy Smith, was even saying, "Yeah, this guy gets rocked and hurt in every fight, but that's Eddie Alvarez. That's how he fights. It's not an Eddie Alvarez fight. If Eddie's not getting rocked and hurt early on and then winning." And lo and behold, in almost all of his fights, he got hurt and rocked and still came back to win him. He really is the underground king. I mean, dream champion. Right, we're getting off topic now. Either way. Chandler is the greatest 2-4 fighter in UFC history. No ifs and buts, no two ways about it. Now, Pimblett. I was just thinking straight off the bat, Pimblett's going to win this fight. But now I think about it a bit more, I'm not sure. I think Chandler, if he plays this right, he can knock Pimblett out. And it would be kind of funny to see Pimblett get knocked out, to see how he reacts. Because he didn't react too well for the Jared Gordon loss, did he? Well, it wasn't a loss, but we all saw what happened. So Pimblett... yeah, he looked shaky after the Gordon fight, but then the King Green fight, man, that really impressed me. That was just so slick. I know Bobby Green kind of did a knucklehead move and just dove in, and you know, he probably thought, "Oh, I'll take him down before he takes me down." I think it was a bit of an ego thing with Bobby, and yeah, man, King. So I say, so stupid. Anyway, I love Bobby Green, King Green, fucking hell. That is an exciting fight. I really can't wait to see that fight. It's going to show us where both guys are. It's a real. I hate it was a crossroads fight, but this really is a crossroads fight. So yeah, I can't wait for that. But I mean, I'm back and forth on it. I was Pimblett, but now I'm thinking Chandler could crack him. I think Chandler's going to crack him, hurt him, have him almost knocked out, and then Pimblett's going to grapple for his life, and like literally grapple like his life depends on it, and somehow get a choke. But we'll see. Now, main event, Volk versus Diego Lopes. This is a sick fight. Diego Lopes' last 2 fights since he's got up to the more higher level, he hasn't been finishing guys. But I mean, that Brian Ortega fight, he almost finished him multiple times. And Ortega, if I'm correct, has never been knocked out or finished. I think he's got stopped once on cuts, maybe. I can't bother looking, but either way, Ortega doesn't get stopped. He doesn't get finished. He doesn't get knocked out. He doesn't get stopped. And he almost looked like he was going to stop him a few times, especially late in that fight. He made him look like Sloth off the Goonies. He rearranged his face. He made him look like a different human being. And then Volk, what can we say about Volk? I mean, Diego Lopes, he's still kind of new in UFC, so we'll have to see. This will be a good litmus test to see where he is. But Volk, after his 12-fight win streak was snapped against his decision loss to Makhachev, which I at the time thought he won, but I think it was one of those fights where you expect someone to get ragdolled and mauled so bad. The fact that he was like doing this when he was like getting up from the takedowns and working the crowd, I think those things can play into it, which I think it did with me personally. I haven't gone back and watched that fight, but yeah, it was a very good fight, a close fight, probably a 3-2 Makhachev fight, but you know, you probably could, some people probably could see it 3-2 for Volk. And then he came back and showed us all who the hell he was in the Yair Rodriguez fight, when he just I mean, that fight, like I said earlier, was just beautiful. It was just my favorite Volk performance of all time. It was a great performance. It was amazing. Then he came in late notice, looking like with a dad bod, little chubby belly against Makhachev, which I think was a stupid idea. Professional boxers, Luke Thomas was saying this, would never ever do this. Which is a ridiculous thing to do. That kind of knockout as well at that kind of age. He doesn't need to be taking that kind of damage. Volk's always been not chinny, but he's been dropped a lot in a lot of fights. The Max Holloway second fight, which he clearly lost, he got dropped about 5 times or something, didn't he? So yeah, that was a stupid thing. And then obviously the loss to Topuria, which was brutal. So he's coming off 2 bad knockout losses. He's had a nice bit of time to rest and recover. This is going to be an interesting fight. I think Lopes isn't as dangerous as Topuria, obviously, but he's up there and he's more. I think I'm not saying he's got more tools than Topuria, but Topuria, we know what he's coming for. He's coming to knock your block off, whereas Lopes will come for more submissions and stuff as well, even though Topuria obviously is a submission guy too. Man, I'd have to favour Lopes in this fight purely because of where Volk is in his career. But, I mean, if Volk was to come back and win this fight and become a 2-time champion, I mean, whether it's for a vacant title or not, against a young, hungry contender like Lopes, who's just flavour of the month right now, it would just be an insane achievement. And it would be, I mean, if Volk won this fight, I would love to see Volk retire. I mean, if Volk wins this fight, I would love to see Volk just say, had a great career, I'm walking away, I've got the belt back, I'm going to walk away as an undisputed UFC featherweight champion. I mean, would it be undisputed really in people's minds? I don't know. But last thing, Topuria moving up. I think it's a bad idea. I think he could be more suited to a bantamweight than a lightweight. He actually has fought at bantamweight in 2018 and then fought again in bantamweight in 2018 for the Cage Warriors title. Missed weight, came in at 141, I think. So then maybe he thought, that's why he didn't fight at bantamweight again. He won that fight, so technically if he'd have made weight, he would have been a Cage Warriors champion at bantamweight. But I mean, the guy's like 5'8", but he looks about 5'6". I mean, I think he's way undersized for lightweight. I mean, his strength and his power will probably carry him through, but I just think he's just a small guy for lightweight. I think Islam is going to be a problem for him. If he can get on the feet and keep it and hurt him early and get him stunned so he doesn't know what's going on and then mess him up, yeah, he's got a chance. But, I mean, the further that fight goes, the tougher it's going to be, I think, for Topuria. I think it's a crazy thing. I think you got plenty of people that have to fight at featherweight. I would have loved to see Topuria stay at featherweight. I think there's more interesting matchups for him at featherweight. I would have rather see him stay at featherweight. I think he's got unfinished business. There's Evloev, however you want to say it. There's Lopes. He's never fought Yair. There's the Volk rematch, which I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, there's plenty of fights for him there. And there's more up and coming talent in the division too. So that's it for this video. That's just my thoughts. Crack me a like, crack me a subscribe. Give me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think of this video, and let me know what you guys think about these matchups. I'll do another video about the whole card more closer to the time, but these 3 fights I'm super excited about. Dominic Reyes on the card too. There's another great fight. One sec. Darren Elkins, The Damage versus, which is a great fight. Julian Erosa, my man, Juicy J, one of my favourite fighters. So can't wait for that fight. And yeah, man, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks if you watched, and peace. See you guys next one.